veterans landed in Baltimore to a water cannon salute by the local firefighters. They also received a memorable welcome by the Navy midshipmen as well as a huge crowd. Veterans were given a police escort everywhere they went in order to honor them as well as to save them time from the heavy traffic in Washington, D.C. The veterans boarded the bus headed to the World War II Memorial. Senator Bob Dole chaired the committee to construct the World War II Memorial.
And this memorial was raised privately, and the total raised is $195 million. You take off $5 from the federal government. So you got $190 million from private sources and interest, and that's a lot of money. But it's the most visited memorial in D.C. It's won all kinds of architectural prizes, but above all, it's won the hearts of the American veteran and their families. Well, if you don't have a little pull at your stomach, I don't care how many times you've been out here, when you get out of the car, particularly in the evening when it's kind of twilight and the lights are coming on and the fountains are working. I brought 30 old World War II veterans here the day before we opened it officially, who were still in Congress, and there wasn't a dry eye in the place. I mean, let's face it, this is a very emotional experience for these men and their families. And it's just a wonderful thing to say hello to somebody and look them in the eye and say thank you for your service.
I am Staff Sergeant Matt of the 3rd Infantry Regiment, United States Army. Guard of Honor, Count of the Unknown Soldier. The ceremony that you are about to witness is the changing of the guard.
The veterans shared some of their stories from the service throughout the day.
Well, I served in Free Territory Trieste. I was set up by the United Nations as a buffer between Yugoslavia and Italy. I was sent there, went there in 1949 and served until 52. Come back. I was in radio, fixed station attendant, repairman.
I went in the service. I was in the Army, and I spent my tour in Italy, and I'm 96 years old.
Oh, I joined up in 1951, and I served 4 full years, mostly on carriers, which first carrier I was on was a USS Lady. Second carrier was a Wasp, and we served most of our time in the Korea area.
I was drafted in 1965. As a draftee, I was going to be in for only 2 years, but I wanted to do something better than just going over there as a draftee. So I re-upped and became regular Army, and they sent me to Aberdeen Proving Grounds, where I became an armament specialist on helicopters. Got to Vietnam, and they didn't have a job for me there, so I became a gunner on a helicopter. And then I came home after that, but fortunately I made it back. A lot of my buddies didn't. Mixed emotions about going to the Vietnam War, but my guardian and I, we'll decide that when we get there.
Well, I ended up in the medical corps, but that didn't last too long after I completed basic, and training for X-ray, I got shifted to the engineers. Spent the rest of my career at Fort Belvoir, the Engineer Corps. And so this is like a visit back to old hunting grounds by going to Washington, because I lived about 10 miles out of there.
Well, I spent 4 years in the Air Force. I tried to keep from going to Korea. I ended up there a year after I got in the service, spent 15 months over there. I had to work 12 hours. That was a standard work day, 12 hours in Korea for the soldiers. And we'd work 12 hours, and then after the 12 hours is up, I had to teach school because they had so many things that they didn't know. They had to be taught. One of the things was gunnery, shooting a rifle.
Well, I was in 1951 through 1955. I served 2 years in Japan, and I was on a USS Sperry AS-12, which is a submarine tender. We had subs tied up alongside of us for repairs, and we serviced the subs, that sort of thing. While in Japan, I worked in a fleet post office, and we ran around a harbor delivering mail to the ships when they came in from Korea.
I was drafted in 1953, and I got out in 1985. And I first was a helicopter mechanic, and then I was in the artillery and the reserves. Then I was a truck mechanic, and I wound up a petroleum specialist, and I was a first sergeant for 17 years at the end of my career. And the greatest thing that I think happened to me was General Stilson was the head of the 83rd ARCOM, and he wanted to find out the truth about our unit, why we couldn't move faster. He drove down in his Jeep, drove his own Jeep down. When I saluted him, he says, "Hop in, swish." He drove me to an isolated area and asked me questions about our unit. Within 2 months, the Pentagon changed the TONE. There's not too many enlisted men have been driven by a two-star general.
I was drafted, and I went in on the 23rd of February. I was shipped to Fort Knox, Kentucky, and then I was shipped to Fort Lewis, Washington. I took my basic in Fort Lewis. I had all my shots and everything ready for Korea. They alerted our whole battalion, shipped us clear across the United States, went to Germany. And I got married on the 2nd of November. And the 26th of November, I was on my way to Germany. And I spent 16 months in Germany. The war was over, but Germany was all just torn to pieces.
No, I had a tremendous time with the Army. We got in with a bunch of attorneys that got drafted, so we had a real cut-up time, but I didn't really get to see much action as I wanted to.
And in Korea, we built the Freedom Gate Bridge, or I helped to build the Freedom Gate Bridge, and repaired the road from Panmunjom down to, I forget how many miles it was south. Rebuilt that. Got bounced around a lot, different places. But it was a good time. I was in the Army, and I was stationed in the United States. I taught at Camp Carson and at Leonard Wood, Missouri. I started at Leonard Wood, went on to Camp Crowder for a short time, and then I finished up at Camp Carson out in Colorado, and I taught power tools for the combat engineers.
Hello, I'm aboard ship. USS Arthur Middleton. My name is Bill Spring, and I served in World War II at the tail end. I brought the troops home that were fighting over there. I brought them, helped bring them back home to get discharged. I got in the tail end of it. I was not shot at. I wasn't anything. I just did what I was supposed to do.
And I was assigned to a fighter wing out of SAC up at Dow Air Force Base in Bangor, Maine. Spent a little time there, went to Oklahoma City, took my discharge in 1955, got back to Columbus, Ohio, enrolled in Ohio State and joined the Air National Guard. As part of the Air National Guard, I was recalled for a year or so in 1961 for the Berlin crisis and went back to work at Rockwell International. 1968, we were recalled again for the Pueblo incident. 6 months later, we went to Korea for a year, came back, and then in 1973, after 23 years, I decided that I would take my retirement, and so I left and went back to work at Rockwell until I finally retired in 1990 from there.
I was in Korea on the front line for 9 months. I was wounded 5 times. The reason I only honored 2 Purple Hearts is because they told us 2 Purple Hearts you had to go home. I didn't have anything to go home to, and I didn't want to go home. So I stayed with, on my DD 214, it tells me I got 2 Purple Hearts. That's the reason why I do it that way. And then I just did my job like they paid me to do. And if I had to do it over, I'd do it again.
Honor Flight was founded in 2005 by a physician's assistant, Earl Morse.
The idea of Honor Flight got started when I had about 30, 40 World War II veterans that I was seeing out at my VA clinic in Springfield, Ohio, who had never seen the memorial, and because they were my patients, I realized also that they would never get to see their memorial. So I started recruiting other pilots, and we started bringing the veterans out here, about 12 at a time, and then 24 at a time, and it just gradually grew all across the country.
It is a very special experience to be a guardian on the trip. A few guardians talk about their choice to be a part of Honor Flight.
So I got involved through an academy program. They asked if anyone was interested in doing it. I have never done this, never come to the airport to cheer them on as they come in. And I thought it'd be a unique experience supporting one of the veterans. I joined to do my part, and these gentlemen have already done their part. So I was extremely honored to have the opportunity to do this. It has been a wonderful experience traveling to these monuments dedicated to men like the ones we've interacted with today. So I truly enjoyed it.
At the Naval Academy, we have the awesome opportunity of getting to be guardians. They send out emails to us, and they just offer a chance for us to volunteer. And those emails, you have to reply within the first minute if you want to get on the list, because it's very popular. The Brigade of Midshipmen loves this program. We're really fortunate to have it involved with us. And so I got lucky. I'm a first class, so I'm a senior, so I got priority. And they picked me to come out, and I'm enjoying my time. Jack, talking the whole morning just about everything. So I'm really thankful for the opportunity to come out here and spend time with you guys. So appreciate it.
This is flight number 74 with Columbus, Ohio. And I have been on probably 100 or more with other hubs. I do this because it's my way of giving back. I'm a Navy mom. I've got a corpsman for a son. My dad was a World War II XO on an LST in the Korean War. And I had an uncle I never met that was a World War II Navy aviator. And so I've had a chance to meet other naval aviators.
It's Dave Schott, and this is my 47th trip with Honor Flight. And I am proud of my hometown of Gahanna and what the young men and women at the high school have done. But I do this to honor my parents. My father and my mother both served during World War II, along with 6 aunts and uncles. And I carry this cover with me. This cover, the hat, or you want to call it a hat, is in honor of Bill Myers Jr., who died in Iraq. His grandfather, who I took on the trip 2 years ago, or 3 years ago almost now, gave it to me, and I wear it in his honor to celebrate what he did for this country. And basically I do it to thank the men and women, our senior veterans, for what they did and the freedoms that I have here in this country, and without them that wouldn't be possible to do what I do today.
The Gahanna Lincoln High School students have raised $110,000 over the years to send veterans on honor flight trips. That's $110,000 by high school students. We want to have you once again experience Mail Call today. So we have had several volunteers hard at work in our office, making some phone calls, and there's different school groups, different just children who will oftentimes write letters for you. So we also have Mail Call for you today.
State of Ohio and our nation are commendable. Welcome and enjoy your time in our nation's capital. On behalf of the grateful today, we thank you for your sacrifice and service to our country. You are truly one of America's heroes, and I wish you all the best in years to come.
Dear John, I married your father. Let's hope we have love father.
Some veterans shared their thoughts about the special trip.
But today, this has been beautiful. Thank everybody concerned. It's the greatest thing. Everybody should have one day like this.
This was a wonderful day, much more than I ever expected. And everybody has been so great, so great. I just can't, there's just not words to thank you. Very much appreciated what everybody's done. To take their time, their day out, and I understand paid for their own trips. That's wonderful.
Well, you want to have me put tears in my eyes, right? This was the most fantastic day of my life and anybody's life, to see something that you've seen in magazines or on TV ever since you were a kid and thought you'd never see it. I'm 85 and finally did it. Bless all you people.
The day was very good. Fantastic. It's my first time being here. You guys did a fantastic job. I enjoyed everything. The Korean Memorial was very good. All the rest of it was good. I had a real good time. My guardian was real good to me and everything. So I really enjoyed myself.
I had about the most wonderful time in my life.